So the total number of coronavirus cases around the world now is getting close to 5 million. A lot of those people have recovered, but there have been 320,000 deaths. China has agreed to this investigation into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic, while many countries continue to deal with the terrible death tolls. Australia's death toll is close to 100, and states and territories here are making almost daily announcements about getting their economies going once again. Here are today's key developments in our coronavirus coverage. So China says it will support this comprehensive review led by the World Health Organization into the global response to the coronavirus pandemic. President Xi Jinping defended his country's initial handling of the virus and pledged billions of dollars in aid for affected nations. In New South Wales, the Teachers Union has criticised the New South Wales government for announcing a return to full-time schooling from next Monday without final consultations with the union, and we're having a chat to the union boss in the next hour or so. Wall Street surged overnight after a US drug company announced that early-stage trials of its vaccine showed promising results. The Dow jumped nearly 4%. And the Australian market's been open for about 14 minutes or so far this morning. The expectation was there was going to be a significant jump. We'll have the very latest on what's happening on the Australian stock market in a moment. Police in France have been ordered to stop using drones to monitor whether people are following lockdown rules. Human rights groups took court action, arguing the practice was a threat to civil liberties. And Italy has further eased its restrictions 10 weeks after becoming the first country to impose a nationwide lockdown. Restaurants, bars and hairdressers are reopening. Churches have also reopened their doors to worshippers who must wear face masks. OK, so let's take a look at some of those elements in detail now. Chinese President Xi Jinping has defended China's handling of the coronavirus pandemic. President Xi told the World Health Assembly in Geneva that China had been open and transparent about the outbreak. China says it will support a WHO review into the global response to COVID-19. Here's China correspondent Bill Birtles.
What China has agreed to support is a WHO-led investigation, what it calls a comprehensive review, but only once the pandemic is under control. So when would that actually take place? Beijing did not define that. President Xi Jinping also made it clear that it should be objective and fair, which is code for a non-political review that does not take aim at China. So I think the way the government here in Beijing would interpret this investigation in whatever form it eventually takes, it perhaps is a bit different to this original idea of having some sort of truly independent body external to the pressures of governments, which was proposed in the first place. But it's still pretty significant, I suppose, that the Chinese government realised there was a groundswell of diplomatic support around the world for some sort of investigation. The big question, of course, is when this actually does happen, how much influence would the Chinese government bring to bear on the WHO and the investigators who eventually do carry out this review?
Bill Birtles reporting there from Beijing, and the US has accused the World Health Organization of allowing the COVID-19 outbreak to spin out of control. US Health Secretary Alex Azar took aim at China during his address to the United Nations World Health Assembly.
In an apparent attempt to conceal this outbreak, at least one member state made a mockery of their transparency obligations, with tremendous cost for the entire world. We saw that WHO failed at its core mission of information sharing and transparency when member states do not act in good faith. This cannot ever happen again. The status quo is intolerable. WHO must change, and it must become far more transparent and far more accountable. It is also critical that Taiwan participate as an observer at the WHO to bring the helpful perspective regarding their effective and exemplary response. WHO barred Taiwan from participation in 2016, just a few months after Taiwan's free and fair elections. The health of 23 million Taiwanese people should never be sacrificed to send a political message. Although we are all focused on the immediate response, we need a more effective WHO right now to help win this fight and demonstrate to our citizens that we are working to prevent such catastrophes in the future.
Okay, let's turn the focus on Australia now. And New South Wales teachers are angry that the state government has decided on a return to normal classes from next week without final consultation. Lily Mayers reports from Baulkham Hills in Sydney.
The government's phased approach to face-to-face learning began last week and had students returning to school for 1 day a week. The government says that's been so successful, they're now ready for a full-time return. So the Premier had flagged classrooms would be full by term 2. That's now being brought forward to May 25th or the start of week 5. The Education Department says that schools will be cleaned and there'll be access to hand sanitisers for teachers and students. There will still be restrictions on excursions and school assembly though. The Premier this morning has indicated we can expect schools to temporarily close as there are infections, but she wants to avoid another closure of schools across the board. Take a listen.
From now on, we don't ever want to see a situation where all schools are closed. We want to make sure that face-to-face time in the classroom is what maintains and sustains learning through the pandemic. But I do say it will be common for schools to be shut down temporarily. It will be common for a specific area to be on high alert. It will be common for a particular school to take extra measures if there's a community breakout in that community with cases. And we just have to accept that.
But Lily, the Premier has got the union offside in terms of the way she's approached announcing this.
That's right. The Teachers Federation has said their members are angry at the government for announcing this full-time return without finalising some details with teachers. Those issues include questions around social distancing, the role of parents and how public transport is going to work for students. So the union has sought an urgent meeting with the Department of Education today. As for students, we've spoken to Year 12 students here at Crestwood High School in Baulkham Hills, and they say they're really looking forward to full-time learning in the classroom again, and that they've been surprised at how much they miss their peers and teachers during the recent weeks of online learning.
Italy has recorded its lowest daily death toll since March the 9th, with 99 deaths in 24 hours. Shops there have started to reopen after being closed for nearly 3 months. Protective measures have been implemented in many stores with only a few customers allowed at a time. Mandatory gloves and mask and body temperature checks at the entrance. US pharmaceutical company Moderna Inc has seen its share price soar after a promising early trial for a COVID-19 vaccine. The findings are based on data from the first 8 people to be given the experimental vaccine in March. Drug maker Moderna says its vaccine produces antibodies that could neutralise coronavirus. It says the levels of antibodies in the volunteers were similar to those in blood samples of people who've recovered from COVID-19.